Hi, welcome back to our next lesson, season 2 of our 10 for 10, class number 3, and continuation of yesterday's topic on tzedakah. And of course, as I ask every day, and I mention every day, just wanted to reach out and let you know that if you do need support, if you do need help, please ask for it. If I can be of any support, please do private message me or call me if you have my number. Yesterday we did speak about tzedakah and some of the overarching principles of giving. And really we discussed, and I think it's important at this time, if somebody's feeling ashamed perhaps to ask for money, to reflect on what I was talking about yesterday, and that is the person who has the money to give is really just a partner with Hashem. So don't feel ashamed if you are struggling. And today's day and age, with so many people losing their jobs, I have no doubt that there'll be people who do need financial support. So if you want to reach out to an organization, to somebody you know who can perhaps help you, don't feel embarrassed. That person who does give tzedakah is doing a big mitzvah. You're giving them the opportunity, as I said, to partner with Hashem, to be able to make the free choice to give of themselves, and really can uplift them as well. So it's certainly something you should do. And of course, if you have the ability to help, remember all of those benefits we spoke about yesterday. So the next topic we're going to look at today is the continuation of tzedakah, and really look at some of the logistical and legalistic aspects of how we give tzedakah, and how much am I supposed to give, and how much, and who should I give it to. And of course, in the scope of this 10-minute class, we're not going to cover all the intricate halachic details, because there are many, and in particular when it comes to one of the mitzvot is to give ma'aser, to give a tenth of our earnings, and some even say it's righteous to give up to 20%. How you calculate that and the various things you can, it's like almost like dealing with the ATO. That's obviously not in the scope of our lesson today. And if you did have questions, speak to your rabbi. If I'm your rabbi, then of course give me a call, and I'll always be able to work with you through that. But today we're looking at some more core and fundamental principles. And that is, Hashem asks us to respectfully take care of the poor. And in fact, the mitzvah itself, besides actually giving the money, which we'll talk about, we need to work to the best of the extent that we can. But you have to remember a cornerstone principle of this whole concept of giving is what I did touch on it yesterday, and that is the emotional and the reputation that the person will feel, the confidence that the person who's getting tzedakah will feel. And if you treat them in a way that is below and treating them like they don't deserve dignity, then unfortunately I think it can actually undo the process of actually helping somebody. So that is crucial. So as I mentioned, we have the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. We have the mission of giving of our income, 10% of our income. And as I said, you have to work all those details. But let's look at some of the hierarchy. Now I know today, and maybe we'll discuss this in one of our 10 for 10, because it's sadly a topic which is, I think, going to come to the forefront, and that is prioritizing the needs of people. We all want to help, we all want to do goodness, we all want to do kindness, but how do we differentiate? How do we assist? How do we help those who need help if there's a long line of people who need help? Where do we start? What do we do? So I'm going to just mention some of the basic principles, and hopefully this will give you some guidance in determining how you can help with your tzedakah and how you can assist those around you, and also one of some other overarching principles. So the first principle which I think is important to do is the ideal form of tzedakah. Now, as I mentioned, it's so crucial to look after the well-being of the person, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and therefore, if you had to put yourself in a position where you needed help, and I'm sure all of us have at times been on that receiving end. If you haven't, then Baruch Hashem, thank God Hashem sees you as a partner and has entrusted you to be that partner for a long time. But the first thing to remember is that we want to make the person almost be able to become self-sufficient. That is probably the highest form of tzedakah. So you can do that in a number of ways. If you have the ability to give somebody a job, or to teach somebody a skill, or to loan somebody money so they can start their business, that is an unbelievable form of tzedakah. Because why? Because you're keeping that person's dignity intact. Not that if you give them tzedakah, they should feel that their dignity is not intact, but the reality of the world is some people do feel like that. And therefore, if you have the ability to assist someone by keeping their dignity intact, by hiring somebody, by helping them set up a business, that is one of the highest ranking forms of tzedakah. And if you can think of ways to do that, that's the best thing. So for example, in our day and age now, if you know somebody lost a job and you happen to be hiring people and you know this person needs work, call them and say, look, I can't give you money for free, but I would like to utilize your services. I had a friend who I know was struggling, and their father, the person's father wanted to make some money, and they went into a side business to help. I think it was cleaning houses, whatever it might be at the time. And he asked all his friends, please hire my father to do this work. And it was incredible because it really gave him a good parnassah. The father felt good that he was doing real work. He wasn't just getting handouts. And it was phenomenal on all avenues. So if you can lift the dignity of somebody, if you can loan them money, give them a job, teach them a skill, that is the greatest form. Now, that's not always possible. And therefore we sometimes have to give tzedakah. So as I said, the principle, the guiding principle is really, how do I minimize making that person feel, more dignified? How do I minimize them feeling that they're a handout case, that they're a charity case? And I use these words, unfortunately, not because I mean them in the sense that someone should ever feel like that, but that's how people do feel, and sadly, some people do make others feel like that. So if the highest level is giving somebody a job and giving them, the ability to become self-sufficient, then of course, as we go lower and lower, it's about how do we protect that dignity. So for example, another level, which is still a high level, is you don't know who you're giving the tzedakah, and the person who's receiving doesn't know where it's coming from. And therefore, if the two of you happen to be sitting in a room at a wedding, at a function, you happen to go to the same synagogue, you don't know who's getting the tzedakah, and the person doesn't know that it's coming from you. So there doesn't have to be that awkwardness. And as the levels drop, of course, there's more chance of the dignity being questioned and the person feeling a little bit awkward. So of course the next level will be that he doesn't know that you're the giver, whereas you know that he's the receiver, and vice versa. There might be a case where he knows that you're the giver, but you don't know he's the receiver, so he still might feel awkward. And as we drop lower and lower, so be guided by that basic premise. How do I ensure that the person who needs help is remaining dignified and doesn't have to feel uncomfortable, uneasy around me? And therefore, some of these charity organizations, like the Melbourne Jewish Charity Fund or C-Care, I know a lot of them try and protect the dignity of the person they're giving tzedakah to. So that if you give money to the Melbourne Jewish Charity Fund and they then assist the family who needs help, the family doesn't know that the money came specifically for you, and you have no idea where the money's gone because they keep it very confidential. So it's a very high level of tzedakah. The next guiding principles, which are very intricate in many ways, and something which certainly worth exploring further if you do want to take this a step further and want to understand how do you conduct yourself in this way. But just like we triage, and sadly, as I mentioned, I think we will need to do a shiur on triaging because sadly it looks like what's going on in America and other parts of the world. How do these doctors decide who gets treated first and so on? So it's something to look at because halacha does talk about it. But here it's a question of, if I can assist with helping somebody, is there a list in terms of triage? Who do I help first? So I'm going to give you, as I said, the basic format and principles, and any specific questions you're welcome to reach out to me or somebody if you have a different rabbi that you speak to and so on. So the halacha is basically the first people that are responsible in your care are your family members. Okay, so you got to look after your direct family, those who are in your relatives, if you know a cousin or if you know an uncle, if you know a cousin or a brother or a sister or brother-in-law who needs help, they are your priority. Then it says the people in your immediate neighborhood. So I guess that would probably refer to also your community members, the people in the same community as you. They deserve your help first. Once we move past that, we then get onto the citizens of our country, of our city, and then our country. So it's really starting inwardly and working outwardly. So you've got to help those as much as possible. And then we go on to the poor of Israel. The land of Israel is a home for all of us. It's something which is dear to all of us. And sadly, we can't travel to Israel at this time, but our hearts are still there. And so therefore, giving to those who are poor in Israel and then poor in other places. So again, working inwards and then working outwardly to help assist those people. Of course, people who, it's not only helping Jewish people, people of all faiths that need help. It's a wonderful thing to do and to assist them. But of course, helping your community, helping your family, as we've just learned, is a priority. And it makes sense, I guess, logically for many people as well. You want to help those nearest and dearest to you. But if you do have the ability to help beyond that, then of course, go ahead and do that. It's a special thing to do. Now, we don't have the time to go through it specifically, but I think perhaps we'll do it at another time. You might say, well, what if my family member needs, they're used to going to chats in the shopping center and buying luxury clothing, and somebody in Victoria, another Jewish family that I know, who are not part of my community, not part of my city necessarily, they literally don't have food. So there's also prioritizing in terms of the needs. So using the guiding principle as, of course, who is closest to you, and of course Israel and poor of the other parts of the world, but also in terms of what is needed. So it's usually those who need basic life support, life measures of food and shelter, that takes precedence. Anything after that, of course, is secondary. And one final thing about tzedakah, which really teaches us the psychology of the way the Torah thought, that if somebody was wealthy and they've fallen on hard times, to really try and assist them to, I don't know if we can afford necessarily give them, although the halacha does talk about it, to give them exactly what they were used to, but be sensitive to the fact that they may not be used to asking for a handout, and the way in which we deal with them should be done kindly and gently, just like we would deal with anyone else as well. So I hope that helps in some way. I hope it inspires you to continue to give tzedakah and to, I guess, start getting the conversation in your mind as to the priority and how you should give and who you should give to. And really, I think the final measure is, it's better to give no money if you're going to be rude and nasty, and rather, forget about giving the money, because treating the person that way. But think about the dignity of the person. Give them the money and a smile, because that is the greatest way of helping somebody else. So have a wonderful day, and hope to see you for our next day.